So, welcome to another great episode of 21st Century Disability. And today we have as our guest Anna Schmid. Anna, sorry, is that actually how you pronounce your name?
So it's Anna Schmid.
Anna Schmid. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Okay, let's start that again. Michael, you can edit this out. So, welcome to another exciting episode featuring Anna Schmid as our guest. So, Anna, why don't you start us off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Hollis. Happy to be here today. Thank you for having me. So a little bit about myself. I am 36 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I work as a part of an inclusion, diversity, and belonging team for a healthcare company. I am a avid disability advocate, and that comes from my lived experience of having a neuromuscular disorder that I was diagnosed with when I was 3 years old. Stopped being able to walk when I was 10. So I've used a mobility scooter for um, over 25 years now. And it really it plays a big part in my life, but it's also very much my normal. So it's easy for me to talk about my disability and advocate for others, and play a role that um, I feel like is very necessary in our society because disability is such a huge um, there are a lot of people with disability, whether people realize it or not. It's a big part of
Absolutely.
the global population, and there needs to be more advocacy and awareness. So that's a little bit about me and the role that I play in the world.
That's fantastic. And you're right. Probably a lot of people don't even realize that they have a disability because a lot of adaptations are just so well accepted into society. Like anyone wearing glasses, I'm sorry, you're disabled.
It's so true. It's true. Yeah, people don't realize that this huge community, a lot of them are a part of it, whether they realize it or not. And I think identifying with the word disability is um, it's not something a lot of people are comfortable with. Like it's such a
Mhm.
stigmatized word that that people have a hard time like wanting to take on that label. So a lot of the work that I do is trying to reframe that disability isn't this awful world or experience. It's actually um, I mean, I have a pretty great life. So, but I think a lot of people would see me and think, oh, wow, like, I don't know how I could live the life that she does. And I have a great life. But people
Absolutely.
look at me and think that immediately. So it's really trying to rewrite that narrative of what disability is.
Absolutely. And so, now, Anna, what challenges would you say you face managing this condition, particularly regarding access to knowledgeable medical professionals?
Ooh, that's a good question. So uh my day-to-day challenges are there's quite a few, but I think I oftentimes don't think about them because it's just my life and it's what I go through the day experiencing. I think some of the biggest challenges that more and more people are becoming aware of, especially if they acquire a disability, are the challenges related to healthcare. Having to advocate for yourself, getting doctors to listen to you and understand what you're experiencing, especially if you um, might have what we would consider an invisible or non apparent disability, something that you can't see from the outside, but it makes a very significant impact on your life. Lots of chronic symptoms, maybe like pain or fatigue. Um, people are dealing with a lot of things that oftentimes we can't see, and trying to advocate that to a doctor and getting them to do proper testing. That's a significant challenge for a lot of people. Um, and also the cost associated with having any kind of chronic healthcare condition, whether it be disabling or not. um,
Mm.
the cost can really add up, and people don't realize that, unless they live that life. For instance, the seat on my scooter, it breaks down because I'm sitting on it all the time. So I'd say it maybe
Wear and tear.
has like a 6 month life. Um, and it's maybe like $350 to replace every time it needs to be replaced, but that's every 6 months, and that
Mm.
adds up quickly, and insurance doesn't cover that. So it's
Yeah.
those seemingly little things, that add up over time that people don't think about.
Yeah, and you're right. People don't realize that being disabled is expensive. You know, like, and I'm sitting in my wheelchair, and it's about the same cost as a Hyundai. And I'm living in Canada, where I benefit from, some pretty great free healthcare. But the government will only pay for 75% of a $15,000 to $18,000 wheelchair.
Yeah.
And the leftover of that is quite expensive.
Yes.
As
Yeah,
it,
it is.
yeah.
It definitely is. I think a lot about, so I love to travel, and have been very fortunate to travel with this incredible company called Wheel the World that makes traveling for individuals with disabilities more accessible. But I also travel for work sometimes, and you know, there are a lot of people out there with disabilities that use mobility devices that are afraid to travel because airlines don't have the best reputation for um, handling medical equipment with care.
Oh, yeah.
It's just to them, they don't realize how this is someone's way to move through the world, and if it gets damaged, it can take a significant amount of time to either replace it or repair it. And it keeps people from living their lives and
Hmm.
experiencing the richness of the world. Um, and it's something I think about every time I fly of, okay, is my scooter going to end up, in good condition from point A to point B? And if it doesn't, what do I do? So there are those kinds of challenges as well. Lots of mental hurdles, beyond just the cost. There's also the how do I anticipate things that may come up, and how do I deal with them? And it does build resiliency and problem solving. And I think it makes people with disabilities kind of like superheroes in their own right, to deal with some of the challenges that we deal with, and find ways to get around them, but shouldn't have to be so difficult.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Life should never be so difficult. Now, Anna, when you and I were speaking last, one of the major topics of our conversation revolved around ableism. And I remembered like our original chat was sparked by a post you made regarding angry ableism. Can you maybe talk a bit more about that?
Yeah. So I'm trying to jog my memory now. But I think if I'm recalling correctly, the post you're referring to, I talked about um my experience showing up in the world, and how when I was younger, because I've been disabled since a young age, um, I would encounter people with disabilities, and there's just a lot of anger there. And as a child, I never understood that. I was like, oh, like you catch more flies with honey, like, and that's
Hmm.
very much my nature. I approach things from a positive, good intention standpoint, because it does typically result in a more favorable outcome. But as I've gotten older, I understand that anger, um, and why people with disabilities have a lot of us have kind of a wall up, and a lot of just cynicism um, and anger towards the world. And it's because we're living in a world that is not built for us. It is, like I said, the constant challenges and hurdles, and there's that narrative of, oh, well, you can overcome, like, oh, you've overcome so much, like you're so
Hmm.
inspirational. I'm like, yeah, thanks, but it leaves you with a sense of just being angry for constantly dealing with difficulties. Um, I think I had told you when we chatted, my house, my where I live, my day to day, it's set up for me. So I'm able to do what I need to do. But anytime I go out into the world, I experience um, challenges, like one after another. And it's something that you learn to deal with and figure out how to work through, but it's exhausting.
Hmm.
And when you've advocated for your needs, and when you've created awareness, which is something that I do now, and it's very empowering, and it helps to curb that anger because I'm doing something with that anger. I'm pushing it into something that is fulfilling, and I'm able to action on that anger and turn it into education and awareness and help others learn, so that hopefully eventually one day we might live in a world that is more accessible, for everyone, and there is a little less anger. But I think that that sense of the angry disabled person, it's warranted, and I understand it a lot more now than I did when I was younger.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I was, when you're growing up, you're almost used to your disability being a medical thing. But as we have, you and I are quite similar in age, and we have learned now that disability, as this podcast tries to exemplify, is more so um, affected by the environment around you and the barriers, the physical barriers that you face around you. But I think, not, as you say, like, not only the physical barriers, but the language that we face can be a big challenge. Now, so how can the language we use perpetuate or challenge ableism in both personal and professional contexts, would you say? And maybe what steps could individuals take to promote more inclusive communication?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. Um, let me see. Let me see how I can try to do this justice. I'm probably going to end up with all kinds of thoughts on this later, but I think, for one, treat people with disabilities like you would anyone else. Interact with them, engage with them in public. Don't shy away from having a conversation, with someone, just like you might with someone else. And don't let the fear of saying the wrong thing keep you from connecting with someone. And this is kind of more of an etiquette piece than an ableism, but I think it ties together because um, it would be easy for me to toss out a lot of things to don't do. But when you provide, when you create a bunch of parameters that people need to operate within, it oftentimes will shut them down. And they're like, oh, I'm afraid to say anything. I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm just not going to say anything. Um, so I would be careful of that because you want to be able to connect with somebody with a disability like you would anyone else.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, everybody wants connection. But I think that when it comes to language, if you, so this happens to me occasionally, I'll be grocery shopping, or just at a restaurant, just like living my life, and someone will come up to me and say, oh, you're so inspirational. And I kind of like look around, I'm like, what am I doing? Right. Thanks. Like,
That is nothing for me, but thank you.
right. You want to call me inspirational for my advocacy, for my leadership, for what I'm doing in my job and in my personal life, trying to create a better world for people with disabilities? Cool. I will take that. I am inspirational in that, right? I don't consider myself inspirational for leaving the house to go grocery shopping or doing everyday things like anyone else. So
Yeah.
if you're out in public and you see somebody with a disability and you're about to call them inspirational, maybe check yourself for just a second and say, does whatever they're doing warrant that kind of language? Um, that would be my biggest, like, let's think about this before we speak. Um, I think this is kind of an interesting territory. And Hollis, you might experience this. I know we both use motorized mobility devices, but I find out in public, people will comment like, "Oh, you're like, what's your mileage, or you're going too fast. What, like,
Yeah.
and just any kind of language around how quickly I'm driving, or um, I'm a speed demon or something like that."
I'm gonna give you a speeding ticket.
Yes, yes.
I
And I've had
hate that.
instances. I
Hate it.
Yeah, I I got a lot more of that when I was younger. It happens less as an adult, but it still happens. And I think I always respond positively. I just kind of giggle or laugh or something. And it could be a moment where I stood up to advocate. Um, but I'm kind of conflict averse, and my thing is I know that it's coming from a place of good intention. It's somebody trying to connect, but they might not have the words. They might not have um they don't know what to say. So they say
Yeah.
what's comfortable to them, and it doesn't really feel uncomfortable to me, but I think it probably could for some people with disabilities. So this is my reframe for people with disabilities to, it's not something to let go, because I know that when you hear these things, they're microaggressions. They build up over a time, but they're coming from a good place. They're coming from someone trying to connect with you. And having conversations like this is how we reach people. It's how we provide more awareness and education and understanding. And it doesn't happen overnight. But I think at the end of the day, it's so easy to like, oh, God, that person, like, I can't believe they said that, and just get angry about it when realistically, like, they're just a human and they're trying to connect with you the best way they know how. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think that's just important to keep in mind. It might be a controversial take.
No, that's not controversial at all. I wouldn't say. So now, would you say, um, would you, you mentioned your professional and social life in that conversation. So would you say that you face a higher level of ableism in your personal life or in your professional life?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Once upon a time, ableism was my number one challenge in my professional life in being able to get a job. For a very long time, I had Social Security disability, which is what we have in the U.S. as kind of a social safety net, um, because I could not get a job to save my life, and I tried. I tried so hard. I got out of college. I was ready to go and be a productive member of society, and could not find a job. I interviewed hundreds of companies, and it was uh, it was really difficult. No one ever blatantly discriminated against me, but it was always a like, so someone's a better fit for the job. And
Mm.
I wasn't applying for anything that was like, way outside of the wheelhouse of my capabilities. But a few years went by and technology caught up, and the world of remote working became more of a thing. And I started getting jobs, no problem. When people had no idea I had a disability, it was not an issue to be able to
Yeah.
get a job, which is just, it was mind blowing. The first interview that I went on and I received an offer almost immediately. It was like, what's missing here? What, like, they don't know about my disability. And then that happened again and again and again. And that took a toll on how I showed up in the world and how, I mean, I started hiding a key piece of myself because right now we're having conversation. You wouldn't know that I use a mobility scooter, that I'm disabled. Um,
Yeah.
so I hid that part of myself for a long time, until I got in with the current organization that I work with. And things were just different, and I felt comfortable opening up. And over time, um, I ended up founding an employee resource group and providing a safe space for others to bring their whole selves to work and feel comfortable. So that really started my advocacy and my desire to start educating and talking about disability in a professional capacity. So I would say that ableism at this point in time is not so much of an issue in my professional life. Personal life, yes, and no. I think that,
Okay.
so I think about it when it comes to dating. Um, dating for anybody is not fun. It's
No.
it's
Yeah.
challenging these days. And I dated a lot in my 20s, um and never really ran into too many issues. But I think when you get a little bit older and you're not just looking to date, you're looking for, a partner in life.
Hmm.
And that's a little bit harder. So I think that I definitely face ableism. I'm sure there are men that meet me and have all kinds of ideas of what I am able to do and not able to do. And they're just gonna ghost me, or, not go on a date in the first place, like just disappear because that's easy. Um, and honestly, I kind of like, it's kind of a good thing, in my mind, because it weeds out anybody who's not like able to show up on the level that I need them to. They're not going to be a partner that I want if they're going to walk away
Yeah.
that easily. So in a way, it's kind of a good thing, but yeah, ableism shows up more in my personal life than my professional life these days. Long-winded answer.
So you find like in terms of dating, like do you find maybe dating apps to be a better than randomly meeting someone, or just so like that way you can completely be open about who it is you are?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I was younger, like my 20s, I did not make it like, I wouldn't meet somebody without telling them about my disability, but it wasn't apparent that I had a disability. So I had no problem matching with people and chatting with people. And then, if we're going to go out, I'm not just going to show up and them have no idea that I have a scooter because I am averse to conflict. I'm not trying to do that. So I would let them know we'd have a date. Sometimes it would turn into more, sometimes it wouldn't. These days, I'm on one dating app, and it's kind of like begrudgingly, like I'm just on there, but I'm just, ugh, dating apps are kind of awful these days. But I'm very open about my disability. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to hide it. And I get far less likes and far less people interacting with me, and that's okay.
yeah.
I actually these days I prefer to meet people organically in the
Mm,
wild. I think it's rare to be able to connect with someone in public these days, but that's my preference.
okay. And so now in terms of your when you're like working in like inclusion and disability, like how um within a uh sorry, maybe Michael can edit this beginning out, but like uh how does working in inclusion, diversity, and belonging within a complete global healthcare organization influence your perspectives on maybe political situations?
Yeah.
One maybe even dating, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally different switch up, but I think that when I think about inclusion and so inclusion, diversity, belonging. Diversity is just a part of life. Every single one of us is diverse. Diversity, at the end of the day, is just our differences. It's what makes us unique. And so diversity exists no matter what. Being able to provide a space where people feel included, where they feel like they have a seat at the table, they have a voice, and that their ideas and thoughts are being considered. And if they have feedback, and that feedback, you know, I think a lot of times, this is a tangent, but I think a lot of times people are they don't want to give feedback because they don't know if anything's going to happen with that feedback, or they're just afraid to speak up. But when we hear from people, when people are willing to let us know where they're coming from in life and how they're affected from whatever background they come from, that feedback, we can take it and say, oh, maybe it's something we hadn't realized, maybe it's something we hadn't considered. Um, and that can provide us opportunities to increase inclusion, to create more space for more people at the table, because to be to be the best, to be a good organization, to be a good human being, we have to be able to look beyond ourselves and look at different perspectives and um, different lived experiences. Like being able to learn from each other. That's how we grow as humans. So from an inclusion standpoint, being able to understand where people are coming from, diversity is going to be there no matter what. And then belonging is that, like, that amazing place that we work towards, because creating a space where everyone belongs um, is easier said than done. But when we have that feedback, when we have people raising their hands and being willing to speak up, we can work in the direction of progress, which is a space where everyone feels that sense of belonging. And from a political standpoint, it's we're in really interesting, unprecedented times, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around DEI and that sort of work.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's creating a space where people can be themselves, and we have understanding of different backgrounds, different awarenesses, and disability is a piece of that. Disability inclusion absolutely ties into anything DEI related,
Mhm.
because it is another type of lived experience. It's another unique difference that we're bringing to the table, that needs to be considered. So I think that for me, um, it's challenging. It's emotionally exhausting to have to um, be thinking about like why people have such issues with
Yeah.
people just wanting to live their lives and have their experiences understood. But yeah, it's tough times.
Well, and as you say, you know, disability is a big part of what DEI represents. And, like the disabled community equals about a third of the economy.
Yeah,
And so if you are more aware of, the needs of that community, then your business will grow too, right?
yeah, yeah, it's true. It's very true. I think the more um and it's interesting. The business case for disability inclusion is, I want to say it's like in the trillions of the amount of money that people with disabilities and their loved ones can bring to the economy.
Mhm.
And disability has always kind of been this like afterthought, this category of like, that gets sidelined. But if businesses really honed in on that number, I think they would be more apt to do more to create greater disability inclusion. Because at the end of the day, like, companies want to make money. That's the goal. Um, but being able to support the broadest representation that you can of your clients, like that's how you're going to get to that goal. So factoring in
Mhm.
disability, it's just a smart move.
Yeah, and when your staff includes disabled individuals, and when they're, in meetings and when they're making decisions, you can say, actually this might not work for people like me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've definitely had some conversations like that at work, and I think about organizations like Microsoft. They are basically like, when I think of companies that are doing disability inclusion right, Microsoft would be number one, and that's thanks to Jenny LaFleury, their chief of accessibility. Um, but I sat on a webinar recently for, I think it was the Ability Summit that they do yearly, and they had packaging. They have completely packaged they've started packaging all of their different like video game components in easier to open packages. And for someone like myself with not the best dexterity, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. If more companies thought about just how they're packaging their products,
Mhm.
it like when I get a package in the mail and I have to fight with it to get whatever my product is out of it, I don't think about it because it's just an everyday challenge. But if I get a package and it's easy for me to access, I'm going to
Yeah,
notice that company. I'm going to say, "Wow, I want to give them more of my business because they thought
exactly.
about
Yeah.
me as a consumer."
Mhm.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, I always go to restaurants that will puree my food very well for me and things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
It makes a difference. People that are willing to go above and beyond and think about you as a human being, you want to be able to participate with them, or you want to give them your business. And that's not a bad thing for businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we conclude today's episode, Anna, what are the best ways for our listeners to connect with you or learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, thanks, Hollis. I appreciate the opportunity to promote myself. So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Anna Schmid. I put out a decent amount of content. You can also find me on Instagram at Lovely Lotus 24/7. And soon to be launching is my Substack publication. Really, really excited about this. It's going to come out on July 1st in honor of Disability Pride Month that's coming up. And that is called Between the Lines with Lovely Lotus. So yeah, please feel free to follow me, support me on those different platforms. I definitely appreciate it.
That's fantastic. And we will be sure to place all of that information in our show notes for our listeners.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Anna, and sharing your stories. And yeah, it's great to get to know you better.
You too, Hollis. This has been great. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity.
All right. Thank you.